Very good morning, and welcome to this session about corporate innovation recipes. My name is Daniel Martin, and this is my colleague Albert. We work at Heywood&Sons. So, at Heywood&Sons, what we do is we build custom-made startups for corporations as a vehicle for disruptive innovation. What does that mean? It means that companies come to us with an idea or a business opportunity. They give us that idea and a seed investment, and then we put together a team of entrepreneurs that will build the business, launch the business, in order to find and validate the business model. After that period, we will go back to the company and decide whether that business should be either scaled inside the company or outside and be kept as a separate entity, or that business should be killed. We have been running for only about 3 years, but we had already the chance to work with great corporations such as BBVA, Samsung, Hewlett-Packard, or Swiss. So enough of us. Let's talk about what we're going to do today. So the aim of today's session is to give you an overview of the main corporate innovation models and recipes that companies are using in order to achieve disruptive innovation. Understand what are going to be the outcomes of the different models that companies are using, and also which have been the implementation challenges that happen when you try to implement some of those models. In order to give you that overview, we will have 4 speakers from 4 different companies that have implemented different models. But before that, my colleague Albert will be sharing some preliminary results of a study that we've been running for the last few weeks, and we'll be continuing running, that describes in a bit more detail and provides a framework to understand what are the different innovation models that companies are using today to disrupt their markets. So, Albert.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So, David and Goliath, if we ask ourselves, why did everybody think that Goliath would win? It was strength, it was size. But then if we analyze why David won, it was agility and speed. So let's speak about startups and corporates. In today's context, agility is increasingly important. We have open software, 3D printing, incubators, crowdfunding, and a lot of other factors, both technological and sociological, that are making it increasingly easy for entrepreneurs to try their ideas, to test their ideas directly with the market. And this means that the gap between production and market is dramatically shortening. That is why agility is increasingly important today, and this means that the threats that David's pose on Goliaths are much higher, have never been as relevant. This is paired with a fact that as corporations gain size, as they gain relevance, they lose agility. They become big, they establish a set of processes, they become really good at one thing they do, they become really efficient at that one thing. But in that process itself, naturally, they lose agility. So what can they do? What can they do in order to stay agile, in order to compete in this environment where agility is an increasingly important competitive factor? Corporations are going beyond their traditional R&D. And what does this mean? At Heywood&Sons, we've spotted 8 different models that corporations are using in order to stay agile in this competitive environment. As we see on the screen, these are the basic models, by the way. There's obviously hybrids, there's many other models as well, but if we strip it down to 8 basic models, these are the ones we found, which is open innovation, accelerator, incubator, investment fund, which would be a corporate venture capital, joint ventures, acquisition, corporate startups, internal innovation departments, and entrepreneurship. But at Heywood&Sons, we wanted to know more. How are each of these models best suited to achieve different goals in our companies? What are the requirements and challenges when we have to implement them? So, as my colleague Daniel said, we set out to do a study that we're still carrying out, but today we would love to share with you the preliminary results of the first 40 companies that we have been able to study. So starting with the goals, why are these companies innovating? Not only to gain the agility in this competitive environment, but the primary goals, what they told us are their primary goals, are their competitive position and generating new revenue streams and or entering new markets. As secondary goals, we find cultural and talent development and generating an ecosystem of partners and collaborators. And then we also have some collateral goals, things that it's not their main idea when they're doing their innovation efforts, but they know that may gain that, which are efficiency in operations and corporate branding. With this in mind, we can know we can focus our effort, our research effort, on finding which models work best for each of these goals. So let's have a look at that. The key areas of impact. The competitive position, we see from minus to plus, that open innovation and acquisition are the two models that are yielding the best results. In order to generate new revenues and or entering new markets is the corporate venture capital and the innovation department. In order to cultural talent development and retention, the innovation department, and then open innovation and entrepreneurship are the ones that are yielding the best results. And in order to generate an ecosystem of partners and collaborations, then we are your answer. Corporate startups is the one yielding the best results, and open innovation and corporate venture capital are in second position. What happens in terms of feasibility? What have we been able to see so far? We've seen a few things, of which we want to share the ones that we have enough data in order to share, because this is a preliminary results. We created this matrix where we have time to early results. This is not full ROI. This is early results. This is important to be aware of, and investment required. And we already start seeing the models grouping in three areas. The first one being low investment and a medium-term early results. We have a second group, which is moderate investment for a result that comes in a little less time. And then we have a third group there, underwrite, which seems to need a much higher investment. When an organization needs to plan or strategize their innovation, they're going to have to take into consideration what are their goals, what are their requirements in terms of feasibility, and find the best model for them. So the conclusions, very briefly, again, this is a preliminary study. We dare to give you two conclusions. The first of which is no one size fits all, depending on your market, your goals, your needs, you're gonna have one model or another one. It also depends on who you have in the company, how much money do you have, when do you need these results. And secondly, multiple goals, multiple models. We found that on average, companies have 2.5 models each, because usually companies will be pursuing multiple goals. So now, I would like to leave you again with my partner, Daniel.
Thanks, Albert.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
So as promised, this was just to provide us a bit of a framework in order to better understand what our speakers are going to tell us. So let me introduce you to the speakers that we have. So first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Claudia de Antoni. So Claudia is a London-based investment director at Virgin Management, which is the family office of Richard Branson, and is the home of the Virgin brand. Hey. Claudia joined Virgin in 2013 after building, after building an online marketplace in the UK, and before she worked for 9 years as an investment professional in private equity and investment banking in London and New York. So a big welcome for Claudia, please. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Markus Weinberger. Markus is director of the Bosch Internet of Things and Service Lab at the University of St. Gallen, which is a cooperation between Bosch and the University of St. Gallen and the ETH of Zurich. Markus and his team of research develop IoT applications in smart home and connected car. And recently, they have Confilad, which is a startup that was funded in Kickstarter. So congrats for that. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Gregor Gimmy, which is the founder and head of a BMW startup garage. Hi. The BMW Startup Garage is the startup incubator of the BMW group. And before that, Gregor helped BMW create Innovation Works, an internal innovation department and strategy in BMW. Also, he founded and started various VCs in software in Silicon Valley and Europe. And also, he worked at IDEO in Palo Alto. Last but not least, we have Xavier Tuduri, who's the CEO of Zurich in Zurich Insurance Group. All right, Xavier. So Xavier is the CEO of Zurich and a member of the 22@ Network Technology Association. He's a business angel and an investor in different technological companies and startups. Before joining Zurich, Xavier worked in Philips in the Netherlands as the manager of the R&D department, and he's also managed and founded the company. Okay, so as Albert was describing, as you see briefly from what I've been describing, this gentleman here and lady have different models in their companies. So the first thing I'm going to ask is to first just introduce a bit more what do you do, and also what is the model that you're representing here on your company. So Claudia, you want to go first?
Great, thank you, Daniel. Good morning, everyone. As Daniel just mentioned, I work in the family office of the Branson family, which is the home of Virgin. We at the family office and our Virgin companies have used all the innovation models that were just being presented. I would like now to show you a short video about our history and our approach in business.
Okay.
Enjoy.
You are concentrating on the area in front of my feet, aren't you?
I'm a born optimist. I think it's much more fun in life to be an optimist. But we have to make our own optimism. If you're in a position to make a difference, you've got to spend every waking hour trying to make a difference.
So it's a yes. Now, what was the question?
question really. You know, whatever the question is, we have been there and we say yes, clearly. Over our 40 years of history, we have launched and created $9 billion companies. I guess you would call those unicorns today. And we have done that using several different of these innovation models. Today, we are also an active venture capital investor. However, we do that independently from our virgin companies, which have their own innovation recipes. For instance, Virgin Media recently launched an accelerator program with Techstars in the UK. And just today, there will be an announcement that another Virgin company is closing 2 acquisitions to accelerate growth. So innovation is in our DNA, and we will keep investing in shaking things up and making a difference. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. So Markus, tell us a bit about what you do at Bosch and how Bosch innovates with the IoT lab.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm working for Bosch. I mean, you might have heard about Bosch as maybe an automotive supplier. Maybe you know Bosch power tools, fridges, whatever. There's many other things that Bosch does. For example, we saw these rock stars on stage. Bosch is also producing large-scale P&A systems, PA systems to power these sessions. When the topic of IoT came up, Bosch thought it was time to try out a new way of innovating and making use and getting hands-on ideas that did not grow internally. I mean, Bosch also has many of the tools and the approaches that we already heard about. We have kind of a long history of acquiring other businesses on large-scale mergers and acquisitions, but also acquiring small businesses in order to innovate and get hands on their innovation very successfully. I did not bring a commercial to explain the history of this 100 and almost 30 years old company. But as I said, then suddenly this topic of IoT came up, and the question for Bosch was, okay, from the technology point of view, we can handle this technological development somehow. We have sensor developments, we know how to handle microprocessors and all kinds of these technology aspects. Big question was, if we have cool technology to connect each and everything to the internet, what do we do with it? What is interesting applications, and how can we earn money with that? And in order to get hands on that and get answers for these questions, Bosch started a collaboration with a professor who is at the same time professor at the University of St. Gallen, one of the well-known business schools in Europe. And he also had a chair at the ETH Zurich, one of the tech schools in Europe or maybe even in the world. Professor Fleisch has always been not really looking for new technological standards maybe in IoT. He has always been looking for the cool applications. What can we do with the technology, and how can we earn money from that? So he has already had a track record of creating some 10, 15 startups in the last like 10 years. So I'm now running and responsible for this research collaboration. We have a lab at the university. It's rather a small organization. We have 7 PhD students, an assistant professor as a scientific head of our research lab. And the idea is, on the one hand, to understand on a like meta level, scientific level maybe, how business models in IoT, Internet of Things work, what technological success factors are. So this is one stream. But the most important part that we are doing is we try to come up with cool ideas for IoT applications. On the one hand, as you already said, in the domain of smart home, and also in the domain of connected vehicles and connected mobility, as Bosch is an automotive company to a large extent. And what we now do with this idea that we come up, we do not only do PowerPoint engineering, we try to make these ideas a reality in terms of prototyping as fast as possible, in order then to be able to either transfer our ideas to colleagues at Bosch, to include and to spark creativity with our colleagues at Bosch, to feed features, functionality, maybe algorithms into their product roadmaps. And if we do not find the right contacts in Bosch, do not find the right enthusiasm maybe for our ideas, we also have the degree of freedom to spin off our own startups. And this is what we did like half a year ago, a little more than half a year ago with ComfiLight. ComfiLight is a very easy to use, easy to install, retrofit smart home security system based on a light bulb. You can see it on the screen now. So I think it's really a cool smart home security product. And we recently, just last week, closed our Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign, which was quite successfully.
Thanks, Markus. We're going to dig a bit more into how you work with and collaborate with the university. So Gregor, tell us a bit about the accelerator you're running, because while you're calling it a startup accelerator, I think it's a very different model than most of the accelerators that you can find here at the 4 Years From Now.
Okay. Well, bon dia. My name is Gregory from the BMW Startup Garage. And I guess there are a lot of startups in the audience here, so I don't want to like make it like a research question or something. I'd just like to think. I would just like the startup to think about what's the most important thing for you. I mean, what makes a startup break or fail? What makes a startup succeed? What's something that every startup wants? What? Clients. Okay. I was expecting somebody to say venture capital. Well, actually, yeah, that's true. And it seems like when you open the newspaper and you read about startups, it's all about financing. It's all around they got this round and they got that round, and it's way too little about clients. And if you think about the world of startups, it's a lot around B2B, correct? If you walk down the halls here at the Mobile World Congress, you see a lot of very deep technology, because ultimately deep technology is what makes all those great products work. But for those great products to work, the startups have to solve a huge problem, huge challenge, which is to work with a big corporate. At the end of the day, every startup needs to work with a big corporate, most startups in the B2B sector, be it Apple, be it Cisco, be it Intel, or in our case, be it BMW. So when I entered BMW just a few years ago, I thought, well, how can we leverage the power of innovation of startups better? And I was seeing a bunch of accelerators out there who were doing, I think, in many ways a great job, but I think I always heard about, and I read it in the newspaper about, what are those accelerators actually achieving? That seems to be some kind of a marketing thing. What's coming out of that? And I thought, well, maybe what we need to be, instead of investing, instead of being a venture capital for the startups, what we need to be is a venture client. We want to be a client. We actually, what I set up is a model by which a startup becomes a supplier, a technology supplier from the very first day. And through that, they can actually apply and validate the technology directly with R&D. So they don't work with me and sit in some kind of room and do a demo day after 3 months. From day one, they work with an R&D team. They get paid revenue for that effort. And they have the ability to actually network on top of validating the technology. And from there on, they basically have their foot in the enterprise in BMW at the headquarters in Munich. And from there on, they can prove that the technology works. And we don't have to go through any kind of contracts or any kind of IP or any kind of exclusivity. It's like, if you have a great technology, you apply to the startup garage. If it's a convincing value proposition, we hook you up directly with an R&D guy. We pay you money to integrate and validate that prototype into our cars. And after 3-4 months, if we see that this technology is really as good as you claim it is, then we can go into a long-term relationship to get this technology into not only our BMWs, but obviously also into many other cars, because it seems to be like when BMW adopts a technology, most other OEMs follow sooner or later. And we've put this all into a short video, which I would like to show you now.
Cool.
Congrats! You made it. Almost. You started a company, you have a technology that can transform the automotive industry. You have a great team, you even graduated from a leading accelerator or got capital from top investors. What now? What's most important to make your vision happen? Clients. But not just any, right? You need a smart client. One with leading technology and products. One with a powerful global brand. One who can help you refine and shape your product, make it ready for the rest of the industry. You need a client who becomes your market maker. We want to be that first automotive client. For this, we created the BMW Startup Garage, your gateway into the global multi-trillion-dollar automotive industry. How? We offer a no-strings-attached co-development partnership. Our goal? To build an automotive prototype that validates your technology. Beyond providing you with smart revenue, we provide you with resources right at the heart of the BMW Innovation World headquarters. We give you direct access to our cars, prototyping tools, and above all, the world's best automotive engineers. We will also help you build your network with BMW and our suppliers. Why does BMW do this? Because startups like yours can make a significant contribution to help us build the world's best premium cars. It's that simple. What do you think? Intrigued? Go to bmwstartupgarage.com to learn more about our program.
Yeah, definitely a very different approach to accelerate startups. So, Xavier, tell us how you generate innovation at Zurich, at Service Zurich, to be precise.
Thank you very much. Bon dia, buenos dias, good morning. So what we did, we really believe that the innovation should come from the employees internally. So what we did, and we saw in our organization, 55,000 employees, we saw in our organization that a lot of presentations showing the innovation approach, asking for budget, and all this kind of stuff that is usually being done in the multinationals, you know. So what we did not ask for permission. We did set up a process for our employees in order to become more innovative. We are a technological center based in Barcelona, belonging to Zurich Group. And what we have done is establish a process on to engage them for coming with ideas, with mainly disruptive ideas. So we test the process on how it works with our employees. It went very good. Our engagement results went from 40% to 98%, so huge engagement from the employees. And from there, we start the process on to starting collaborating with other talented people, like the startups, universities, or whatsoever, and using mainly the open innovation approach. So what we don't have is a team for innovation in our company. We do have all our team, but not a specific team working for innovation. What we do not allow is to use PowerPoints. So we rid of the PowerPoints, and we just asking for having the prototypes being developed in less than 3 months. So these are our main concepts. And as we rid of the PowerPoints, what we have done, just for introduce the concept, we did a video to be shown to our top management in Switzerland. A video cannot be edited. The PowerPoint can be changed. The speaker is not important in a video. So let me show the video, and then I guess you better understand our concept.
Zurich Innovation Lab has been created to enable Zurich on its journey in becoming the industry leader. We combine and experiment with internal and external ideas to lead Zurich into the future digital world. We build a network that feeds us with fresh and new trends. Barcelona technology centers, universities and institutions, startups and many other companies collaborate with us through the concept of open innovation. Located in the 22 Arroba in Barcelona, an area where most of the entrepreneurs and innovative companies are located. We are surrounded with over 350 startups specialized in new and breakthrough technologies. In the Zurich Innovation Lab, we deliver prototypes out of advancing ideas and technologies to identify its feasibility and applicability into the insurance world. where we make progressive ideas come true by developing working prototypes with new technologies to improve the way we work. We create feasible ideas to be implemented in a global market. Unconventional thinking changes the way we see the world. Let's make Zurich the leading innovation company in insurance. Join Zurich Innovation Lab.
All right, so we definitely have very different models here represented, from a venture capital to a collaboration between a company, a university, to something which is something between an accelerator and what Gregor is describing as a venture client, I think you said, and an innovation lab, which is internal. So my first question, and feel free to answer in any order, is why your company has chosen that model to achieve innovation? What is driving that? What are you trying to achieve with that?
May I start? So the reason for us was very easy. We had no budget. So with no budget, what can we do? We just can use our assets, that is our employees, in order to become and to start with the process. So the trigger here is no budget, no money. The only thing that we have, the only and the most important thing from my point of view that we have is our people. So let's use our people in order to steer and to convince the business that we do need to step in. We need to be in the market. We need to collaborate. The collaboration is key for us, and that was the reason.
Markus?
I mean, for Bosch, the rationale was a little bit like, I mean, we already have lots of very creative employees in Bosch. Bosch is applying for thousands of patents every year. We have very sophisticated innovation processes within the company, stage gate processes. But the idea was, okay, we need something else. We need not only have all these tools in place, we also have a venture capital arm to engage with startups and so on. We need, in addition, new models and additional models. So my understanding is the more different kinds of models you have and operate with, the higher the probability of success is, so to say. And the idea was we are entering an extremely fascinating and very new area of the Internet of Things. So it's a good idea not to only rely on what you can think of and what you can come up within your own organization, but also to get access to external points of view, external expertise, the ideas of fresh eyes and new people that are not caught within the thinking of the company.
And just to continue that, and why did you decide to go with a collaboration with a university rather than, for example, collaborating with startups?
As I said, it's not the only way. We have many other different vehicles. In that case, the idea for going with the university was there was a charismatic guy, this professor that we are collaborating with, Elgar Fleisch. He had a kind of track record. He had already proven that he was able to, on the one hand, can come up with cool ideas, not only on a PowerPoint level, but also that he has an ability and a spirit to drive these ideas forward towards startups, towards realizing and bringing these products and ideas to the market.
Okay, thanks. Claudia?
So, as I was saying before, we've used a lot of innovation models. Most recently, we have incubated within the family office, actually, a lot of our Virgin branded companies. Just last year, we launched 3 new businesses. We opened an hotel in Chicago. There will be many more coming in the US over the next few years. We launched a cruise line, Virgin Cruises, raised significant capital for it. You will have 3 cruise ships sailing out of Miami in a few years from now. And we also launched Virgin Sport. Most of you would not have heard a lot about it, but you will see a lot of mass participation sports events coming up that will be branded Virgin, thanks to them. Why are we, recruiting management teams and incubating this business, within the family office? The main reason is that it takes quite a lot to be a Virgin business. The bar is very high in terms of customer experience and culture in general. So it's much easier to build it ourselves than just trying to change the DNA of someone else, really.
Okay. Gregor.
Well, we have budget. We have about 4 billion we spend on innovation each year. And so there's a lot of innovation efforts going on at BMW already. But in regards to startups, let me give you an example. There's a startup here at Mobile World Congress who, out of Israel, and they say they have a technology to reduce the charging time of a battery to 5 minutes. Talking about a car battery, from 8 hours to 5 minutes. Nobody at BMW can do that. Nobody at Bosch can do that. Nobody at Samsung can do that. Those guys come with 50 million venture capital they spent on one tiny, very extremely important technology challenge, which is reducing the charging time of a battery. And to get those startups integrated efficiently into BMW to work and partner with those guys, that's really the reason why we chose that model. On top of many, many other models we have venture capital, we have open innovation, we have tons of collaboration with universities, we have internal idea challenges and so on. Over 10,000 engineers work in Munich, so they're all pretty well selected, smart people. But what none of us has is the ability and the experience, because that company, for example, they have 20 PhDs sitting in their lab in Israel. They've been spending the last 5 to 10 years on that problem and nothing else. And that's a level of expertise in technology that's extremely important to us to integrate it very fast and very efficiently, and that's why we set up the Startup Garage. And I think, and I'm a strong believer, that ultimately a startup is an extremely important and efficient source of technology innovation, and we see venture capital also as an extremely interesting kind of external R&D budget, correct? Because most venture capital goes into R&D, correct? So there's a venture capitalist who spends 50 million on that startup to solve that problem in order for industry like BMW to actually buy and monetize that technology. So here's where we need to form this cooperation, and here's where our Startup Garage with the venture client approach is really efficient and a great add-on to all the other efforts, innovation efforts and models we have at BMW.
Okay, thanks, Gregor. So I think you all described a bit some of the advantages of the models that you guys are using, but what did it take to implement those models? What were some of the struggles that maybe if somebody would like to set up something similar, they would be facing?
Well, maybe I start with this. Of course, there are big challenges when it comes to create your own businesses in-house. You may or may not have experience in those specific sectors. A good example for us is Virgin Galactic. We are literally developing rocket science. So, it is a lengthy process. However, it's extremely inspirational for the entire group to see those guys doing what they're doing, and it really pushes us, push our boundaries across all the other industries and sectors and companies. So it is a big challenge, but at the same time, it comes with a big reward in terms of culture and, really pushing us ahead.
And in that case, I guess as well, a big investment, which is with hopefully long-term return.
You mentioned in your presentation that incubating businesses in-house, entrepreneurship in general, is a very expensive business. So we have to be ready for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other challenges you guys face when setting up your labs or garage or the collaboration with the university?
I mean, I think a very important problem that many colleagues might also face is, on the one hand, it's a good idea to get in contact and to leverage external sources for innovation. But at the same time, if you do so, and you want to leverage these ideas and these innovations for your own company, you then have the problem to transfer and establish the contact. I think it's a little bit the same that Gregor tries to do, to establish a close contact between an external startup, or may it be our group at the university, and to bring them in contact with the internal development sources. I mean, there's this not invented here problem, basically, at the end of the day. Maybe all the brilliant engineers at BMW, or also maybe at Bosch, would be somehow have a reserved opinion towards a startup that claims, okay, we can charge a battery in 5 minutes, what maybe also the Bosch or the BMW engineers tried for years and did not manage to do. So I think overcoming this not invented here problem and really being able to successfully transfer an external idea into your own operation, that is really a challenge that needs to be addressed.
Right, so how to transfer the internal expertise, the external success inside the company.
Well, I get this a lot, this not invented here thing. There is no not invented here syndrome with startups, definitely not. Because a startup only exists because they're actually very, very good technologists. They have something extremely good. If they don't have anything extremely good, there wouldn't be a startup, there would be employees, there would be maybe work in a normal R&D department. So if an engineer comes to BMW, a startup saying that they can charge a battery in 5 minutes, there's no transfer problem. There is no not invented here syndrome. We want to work with this guy. We just need to check whether it works. That's the only thing. So the not invented here syndrome, I think, is a problem for evolutionary innovation. It's not a problem for breakthrough. And startups exist because of breakthrough. The transfer problem, the transfer is a challenge, and I thought about this transfer thing at the beginning, and some of our board members were saying, well, if we do some kind of accelerator, shouldn't we do this like in New York or in Berlin or something like that, or in Silicon Valley? And I said, no, we need to do it right in Munich, right where the engineers are, right where the decision makers are, and we got to sit those guys together in one room from the very first day with the engineers. And here's your transfer problem solved, because now the guy talks to the engineer from Israel who's sitting right next to him for whatever XYZ month, and he doesn't care whether this engineer comes from Bosch or from the startup or whether he's a colleague, he's solving a problem. Those guys are geeks. They want to solve problems, technology problems. So the transfer problem is solved by that. The other trick to solve the transfer problem is give the startup a supplier number from the very first day. Correct? With the supplier number, you get a passport into the corporation. Yesterday I heard from a competitor of ours, a startup was telling me from a competitor, well, we were negotiating IP contracts and contracts for 6 months. Now we've got the contracts, but we still don't have a project to do a POC or proof of concept. So they were basically started to discuss with lawyers for 6 months to see who owns whatever IP before they actually thought about doing a project together. We don't do any of that. We just look at the technology. There's no exclusivity agreement, there's no contract we sign, we just get to work on the project, pay the start of the money, give them a supplier number, and then after 4 months we'll see if it works, and if it works, then we can start about long-term cooperation and long-term IP. So here's your transfer, and if the technology is good, definitely believe me, and if a startup comes to me saying, well, you are too big or too corporate or too whatever to accept my innovation, I say, no, you're just not good enough. You're not solving a pain of BMW, because if you would, we would be working with you in that, specifically in that model.
Yeah, you're asking about the challenges on how to set up in our model, and that's also another reason why we choose this model. I do not think any company is unable to start with our model. You don't need budget. All the companies have their own employees, so let's use them in order to start with the process. So the challenges becomes when we start the process, we roll out the process, we started to develop the prototypes, and the model becomes unsustainable somehow. You know, our employees, we do have our daily business. We do need to provide services to our units from the IT point of view, and on top of that, we were developing this concept of the Zurich Innovation Lab. So it becomes a challenge when we start thinking on to grow on that model, and when we are looking again in another innovation models, as you said. So, but for starting, I would say no issue at all. You can start from the scratch tomorrow using your people.
Okay. So you were talking about this challenge, sometimes transferring either technology or businesses inside the company. And for example, I think in Bosch precisely, you recently launched Confilight outside the firm. So what was the rationale for launching it outside instead of doing it as a Bosch product?
I mean, it is an interesting idea, also from the point of view of many of our colleagues in Bosch. But when we came up with this idea, it did not fit onto the roadmaps of many Bosch entities or the Bosch entities that we were in contact with. So the rationale was either we spend more time on convincing of changing and including this idea into a roadmap, which will most probably mean that somebody else is doing it faster than we do, or we just do it externally and at a speed that would not be possible within the organization, but still with keeping a contact. I mean, still Bosch is a shareholder in this startup, so we thought this was just the faster and for that reason also more likely successful way to do it.
Okay, so what would you say, because I guess you all have a bit of that issue, so what are the tips that you actually implement in order to help those external concepts then be sort of sold internally so that they can be part of the core business? What are the things that you do in your companies?
So our main business out from the Zurich Innovation Lab is to prototype, you know. So we take the disruptive gadgets somehow. We look at the startups that are, you know, top one or have this good idea in order to test, and we work together with them in order to convince the business to trigger the innovation somehow, you know. So our scope is to develop the prototypes together with the startups. We collaborate. Of course, we pay them for this piece of work, because the workforce is coming from the startups or the universities, and then we present to the business. So the next step after the prototype and the mini business case and the gap analysis that we did develop, and here is where somehow we finish our collaboration from the innovation lab, then we hand over to the business units in order to implement either locally with their teams or local startups out in Germany, in Switzerland or in UK or in US or whatsoever. So of course we can also implement the pilot, even the project afterwards, but our main scope is to come back with innovative ideas, with disruptive thinking in order to convince the business that we must change how we think, mainly in the insurance market.
Do you want to comment on that, Gregor? So, for example, how many startups that you have accelerated in the garage have been seen their technologies implemented in a car in BMW? And I know the garage is relatively new, so that's maybe an unfair question, but.
Well, our metric of success is transfer into R&D, and we measure this by the next project they do within BMW after the garage. And so far, it's 100% of the startups who continue to work within R&D. Now, there are some startups who work on something as far away as something maybe which is a battery, correct, which still needs a lot of testing, a lot of evolution, which may be out there maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years. And there's others who may be out there in 2 years, if it's software or if it's something more close to the series. So that varies significantly depending on the type of technology you have. I also want to make an emphasis on, because I think the four of us sitting here have different models, but also for different kind of reasons of innovation, if you may, correct? And there is one thing which is like internal ideas, and the other thing is external ideas. I think what Markus is doing and Xavier is more like the internal thing, and they maybe are getting helps from the outside. We at the BMW Startup Garage, we said we just want to do the outside thing. And an important focus for us is to say, because that has been done for many years before, is that there came ideas from the outside. Maybe a professor came and said, well, I just started a company because I have a patent and I have something that makes your engine works better. And way back when we started working with those people, but not in the Startup Garage, because what we want is to work with a group of people that's called startup, because a startup doesn't only come with great idea and great engineers, they also come with the enthusiasm and with the business development capabilities to, once they are in the system within BMW, they can actually sell and convince other people of their technology. Whereas a professor who just starts a company on the side and sends us a patent, he doesn't do any of the business development of his technology within the BMW culture. And that's why we think that a startup is an extremely interesting way of getting the technology in fast by the very kind of characteristic of a startup, which is those highly energetic, enthusiastic people.
Great. So maybe we have probably time for like one last round of questions. What are the main trends that you see in your companies and also in your industries regarding how to achieve this disruptive innovation, how to partner with startups, or how to act as a startup?
Okay, I get started on this one. We operate in several different sectors. All our companies have their own recipes to innovate. The one big thing for us, and we have a team in-house specifically to foster that, is to infuse purpose in our businesses. So we have a team of people who help all our companies spell out what is that they do and they can do to make the world as we live a better place, and how we can deliver sustainability and greener businesses and better businesses. So that's all strand of innovation that is felt very strong within Virgin. And even when we, as a venture investor, look at startups investing, I also in that case always think, for myself, is this doing business for good? Am I making a difference? So that really drives a lot of our innovation process overall.
Okay. So
I think a very strong driving factor in Bosch is that we see that we are in entering times, or we are in a time that brings many new developments. We talked a lot about technology now. We at Bosch also have the understanding that besides technological innovation, it's also about, for example, innovating business models, that we need way more ways to handle and to leverage these innovative potential than we had in the past. So for that reason, many people in Bosch are really innovating ways to innovate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, given that I'm at the Mobile World Congress, let me remind you that the car is the most powerful mobile device out there. And there is no mobile device that generates more data and more interesting data that actually makes sense to the world, correct? Because you reduce accidents, for example, if you use this data correctly, or you can even help people with health issues while they're sitting in the car, regardless of an accident or not. So it's an extremely interesting and challenging mobile device. And there's a lot of technologies that we still need in order to make autonomous driving happen, a lot of, get full connectivity. So I would encourage all of you guys to think about automotive as a vertical, as a place to start, think about applying your technologies, because I think any technology that you guys develop works in a car or could be used in a car. So in that sense, come contact me. Looking forward to meeting great startups.
I could say, following your question, how to engage or how to expand the model within our own organization somehow. We are working in more than 120 countries, of course. What we are doing is setting up the same kind of innovation lab or hubs in different regions. This will allow us to have contact with the local startups and local universities, of course. But our main focus, apart of developing the prototypes with disruptive technology, our main focus is to convince the business that they must do something somehow. By showing the videos, they just realize that the business model, as you say, it needs to change. And you highlighted that the cars are now related to the mobility and mobile. It's going to produce a lot of data and all these kind of things. And those cars needs to be insured somehow. Even having less accidents, they must be insured. And there is an opportunity there for insurance to step in with different business models and different technology in order to go together with industry.
Okay, so maybe one last question. So here in Barcelona, we now have the Mobile World Congress with lots of people from corporations exhibiting their new ideas, new businesses, and we have the 4 years from now with the many startups showing their new innovative ideas. Do Do you think that one day we'll just have one Congress where startups and corporations can actually work all together? So you don't have to be split up to two different worlds?
So half of my mind is saying absolutely yes, and the other half is saying be careful. You know, I do think that the 4 years from now must keep the essence, you know, and by merging both and everything in the same Congress somehow can impact on this mindset. So, you know, I'm 50-50, I would say.
I have only one day in Barcelona this year, and I enjoy spending this whole day at 4 years from now.
Well, I spent the whole day yesterday at the Mobile World Congress and the day before here. And at the Mobile World Congress, I saw many startups. There are many startups already over there. But I kind of like the format here because every company you meet, you know, immediately it is a startup, so it's very easy to interact with them. Whereas if I go over to the Mobile World Congress, I first have to ask, how much venture capital do you have? Well, we are a big company. Well, so no, you're not a startup. So it's just easier to interact if you put the startups separate from the other companies for then corporates to interact with them. Because at the end of the day, a corporate needs a special kind of organization unit to interact with a startup. It cannot be just the general guy from purchasing or the general engineering guy, because the general engineering guy doesn't have the processes or the methods that we have. So I would encourage you to maintain 4 years from now as a separate event.
I mean, I am a little bit of a different case because working in a family office is a much smaller organization, and we can be nimbler than other big companies. So when it comes, you know, how we work with startups and what to expect to happen in 4 years from now, I have no doubt that we'll continue to, first of all, create our own startups and also keep working with fantastic, you know, external businesses and investing. So, you know, to me, it's going to continue to be like status quo, what you're already, you know, doing.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for all these insights. Hopefully that was helpful to many of you in the audience.